A hearty welcome to one and all present over here. Today, I, Dr. Anuvi Kumar, HOD cum Professor of Obs and Gynec Department. Today, I am going to take the class on sampling techniques. Today, we'll be dealing with the contents that are introduction, what all are the needs for sampling, what all are the sampling processes, what are the essentials of sampling, methods of sampling, that is non-probability sampling and probability sampling. Then comes errors in sampling and thereafter the references of sampling. So, dealing with the introduction of the topic, what is mean by population oblique universe? In statistics, it denotes the aggregate from which sample and items is to be taken. A population can be defined as including all people or items with the characteristics one wish to understand. Because there is very rarely enough time or money to gather information from everyone or everything in a population, the goal becomes finding a representative sample or a subset of that population. So, what do you mean by population? It is the aggregate number of samples to be taken. And there are many characteristics which one wishes to understand regarding the population. So it is not possible for each and everyone to take the sample from each and everyone. So we target a specific amount of population and we name them as samples. So what is the introduction of sampling frame? Sampling frame is the list from which the potential respondents are drawn. So what is sampling frame? Here, where we have can draw the potential respondents that are known as sampling frame. Now, what is a sample? A sample is a smaller collection of units from a population used to determine truth about that population. Okay, here what do you mean by sample? If we want to take a sample of students of BSc nursing, so what is that? They come BSc nursing students from our college will become the sampling frame, and among them if we are taking second year students and from second year students we are selecting a specific number of people, then that is known as the sample. So this is a smaller collection of units. Okay, so here we are clear with what is sampling frame and what is sample. So what is the sampling breakdown? What do you want to generalize to? Here you can see the pictures. There are 4 pictures, and in the first picture you can see that it is a lot of people over there. So this is the first one comes to be the theoretical population from which you have to select the people. Second comes what population can you get access to. Here what does that means? We cannot be accessible to all the population if we want to find out study of a BSc nursing students. So we can take full MP BSc nursing student, but they all are not accessible to us. What do you mean by access? From where we can get the permission to conduct the study. So if we are taking about Index Nursing College, so here we are accessible to that students. So what is the access population over here? The students who are studying in Index Nursing College. So what is that? This is the study population. Okay, then third comes how can you get access to them. Then how can you get access to them? We can take permission for them through the principal ma'am or through the management committee that we want to conduct a study research on them. So like that we can get the access to them, and we have selected like BSc nursing third year students. So the sampling frame consists of BSc nursing third year students of Index Nursing College. Then who will be there in your study? They are known as the sample. Understood? So this is the sampling breakdown. From a big population, you are targeting the study population. From that study population who are accessible to you, and then you are getting an access to them. That is known as a sampling frame, and from that you are taking them the sample. So they will be in your study. So what do you mean by sampling? Sampling is the process of learning about population on the basis of sample drawn from it. Here what we are doing, we are taking the process from which the samples can be drawn. So what all are the main 3 elements of sampling? First is selecting the sample, collecting the information and making inference about population. So in sampling, 3 main things that are important are we have to select the sample, like we are selecting which population that comes under known as selecting the sample. Now we have selected a sample of 10 to 15 people. From them we have to collect the information regarding what all research we are being going to conduct. So for them what we are doing, we are collecting the information, and then after collecting the information what we are doing, we are making inference about the population, that what is the population, what study we are conducting, what all are the questionnaires we are going to take, and after getting that we are getting the information, and with that we are making the inference about the population. Then comes the statistics. So what all information we have gathered from the study, now we will go to the statistics value of that, and then different parameters are there. So from there we are selecting the values from which the population of the study. So the need for the sampling, the data that as per the resources there are of two types. The first is primary and second one is secondary. So in primary what it is, there are original in characters, okay, and here what it is in the secondary one, the data that is obtained is either from published sources or unpublished sources, and whereas in primary there are originals, and they generate a large number of surveys, and whatever primary sources primary data has been there, they are being generated in large number of surveys, whereas in the secondary things they are all are unpublished sources. Now needs for the sampling. When secondary data are not available for the problem under study, primary data is collected. So when there is no secondary data, primary data is collected. And primary data is collected by two methods. First is census method, or second one is a sample method. We all know what is the census method. Okay, and the second one is sample method. So dealing with that, firstly, what is census method? That is complete enumeration survey. What all are the merits of census? The census merits are the data that are obtained from each and every unit of population. Here, the census people go from house to house and they are collecting the data. So here the data that are obtained, that is from each and every unit of population. Each and every population is being included in the study. The results here are more representative, more accurate, and they are more reliable. And because it is the basis of various surveys are conducted, and then only this method comes, census method. Now what are the demerits of census method? It is taking more effort, more time, and more money, because by going and asking to each and every person a question, it takes more efforts and more money and more time, and it is a big problem in underdeveloped countries. Why? Because still there are underdeveloped roads. The people, so some of the scheduled tribes, they are still living in the forest area, so it is very difficult for them, for us to access to them. So because of that, it is a big problem in underdeveloped countries. Now, what all are the advantages of sampling? First, it is of less sources. The real resources are less. We can save time and we can save money. Then, less workload. Here, the workload is also less, and it gives results with known accuracy that can be calculated mathematically. Now, what is the theoretical basis of sampling? On the basis of sample study, we can predict and generalize the behavior of a mass phenomena. As given the example previously, if we are going to conduct a study on BSc nursing students, so we can't take a census method and we can't go and collect all the BSc nursing students who all are residing in Indore or in Madhya Pradesh. So for them, what we are doing, we are taking a sample. From where sample we are taking? From where it is accessible to us. Like we are taking the sample from Index Nursing College itself, and there we are going and accessing the students, and we are taking the study. We have conducted a particular study that what all things as per them is difficult for BSc Nursing, and from them we are collecting the observation and we are taking the study and prediction, and then we can generalize it to the mass phenomena. We can't go and select particular students from different colleges, because for that it takes lots of money and efforts and all. So we are just selecting the students from the places where it is accessible to us. Second point, there is no statistical population whose elements would vary from each other without limit. There is a limit for varying. So because of that, we can take the study in this way also. Now, theoretical basis of sampling, first is law of statistical regularity, and second is law of inertia of large numbers. Firstly, dealing with what is law of statistical regularity. Sample is taken at random from a population. It is likely to possess some characteristics as that of a population. Here, some random techniques are being used to select the sample. And second, larger the size of sample, more accurate the results are likely to be. So in the first point, what we have seen here, the statistical regularity, if there is a 1000 population, randomly we are selecting 100 from them. So the process, it may take some time, and larger the size of sample. If we are taking less sample, then there are more less chances of accuracy. But if you are taking large samples, there are more chances of getting the accurate result. Like if you are taking 50 samples, so there are chances that our results may not be that accurate. But if you are conducting that study in 1000 samples, so what it is here, what it is here, the larger number of sample is been there, and because of that more accurate the results can be. Now, what all are the sampling process? Firstly, defining the population of concern, which population you want to take the sample as. Second, specifying a sample frame, a set of items or events possible to measure. And what we are doing, we are selecting a sample frame with a sets of events and items. Third, specifying a sampling method for selecting items or events from the frame. Then, determining the sample size. Thereafter, implementing the sampling plan and sampling and data collection. Now, what all are the essentials of sampling? First one is representativeness, adequacy, independence, and homogeneity. What is representativeness? Ensure by random selection. What all things we are doing by sampling, it should be in a random selection. Adequacy, sample size. If we want to take the 10% of the sample and if we want to take the 50% of the sample size should be adequate. Independency, same chance of selection. Like whatever technique we are using, we have to take it same technique only. If we are taking the random sampling technique or we are taking the cluster sampling technique, that will be dealing later on in the class, in the same way only, same chance of selection should be there. Then homogeneity means no basis difference in nature of units. There should be no basic differences in the nature of the units. So now dealing with what all are the sampling methods. So there are basically three main types of sampling method. First, that is non-probability sampling, probability sampling, and mixed sampling. Now, what all comes under non-probability, probability, and mixed sampling? So, dealing with the first point, that is non-probability sampling. Here, the sampling comes as judgment sampling, quota sampling, convenience sampling, and snowball sampling. In probability, it comes as simple random sampling, stratified random sampling, systematic random sampling, and cluster random sampling. From mixed, multi-stage sampling, multi-phase sampling, lot quality assurance. So these are the three types of basic sampling methods. Now dealing one by one with this thing. First comes as non-probability sampling. In non-probability sampling, first one is judgment sampling, which is also known as purposive or deliberate sampling. Okay, judgment, purposive, deliberate sampling. These all are the terms used for same sampling technique, that is judgment sampling. It depends exclusively on the judgment of the investigator. Here, the investigator is the judge. He can select whatsoever the students or whatsoever the sample he wants to select. There is no other technique is used. Here, the sample selected, which investigator thinks to be the most typical of the universe. Here, the investigator thinks that yes, I want these people to be as a sample, so he can select that people. Now, what are the merits and demerits of judgmental sampling? Merits. Here, small number of sampling units is selected. Here, the study is unknown traits, case sampling, and here, urgent public policy and business decisions. What are the merits here? Only small number of sampling units can be selected. This, as the study is unknown traits and case sampling, and here, urgent public policy and business decisions has been taken. Now, what are the demerits in judgment sampling? Personal prejudice and bias. There is always personal prejudice and biasness, and no objective way of evaluating reliability of the